If you're looking to start a franchise on Madden 22 and need some help picking a team, hopefully today's video can help you out. I thought I'd make a top 5 list, but I had so much trouble narrowing it down, I made this a top 7 video instead. There are so many teams that are great depending on what you're looking for, but these are the 7 teams that have intrigued me the most. And we're going to start with the Detroit Lions, which to me are the most fun team to do a complete overhaul of. And that includes the Houston Texans, who are a mess right now. But the Lions at least have the start of a foundation with what they've accomplished this offseason, building up the offensive line. There's still so much work to do. But the Matt Stafford-Jared Goff trade has laid the foundation for this team's future. There aren't a lot of players rated 80 overall or above. It's your job to go and draft those players. The Lions are already one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and you're still going to have to add more young talent. On offense, it's very different from even a year ago, as they bring in Penei Sewell in the first round, and now you're going to have 4 out of 5 starting linemen with at least star development. Maybe you can get Jared Goff to be successful once again at quarterback, and with his ratings, I honestly don't think you'd have to give up on the idea of him working out. But you're probably better off drafting somebody because of Goff's massive salary cap hits in the upcoming seasons. TJ Hawkinson is only 24 years old. He is your best pass catcher right now, and it looks like he'll be a really good, well-rounded tight end for many years to come. DeAndre Swift is also very well-rounded. He's not elite in any area. I don't think he'll be a top 10 running back, but he can easily be an above-average starter and at least one half of a good running back by committee. And maybe he could become better than I expect when he's playing behind what's a really good offensive line, which is rare to come by for teams that aren't very good. I just like the idea of being able to work on this offense while knowing the offensive line doesn't need to have a lot of changes. Penei Sewell's obviously a rookie. Frank Ragnow just signed a contract at center, so you don't have to worry about re-signing him. At left guard, Jonah Jackson, second year, star development. Really, this team is set up to be a solid rushing team right now with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in the backfield, but it's all about developing this passing game now. Do you want Jared Goff? And what do you think of these receivers? I was a big fan of Tyrell Williams when he was with the Chargers. He then went to the Raiders and missed all of last season, has not been fully healthy in a while, but he does have some big playability. And so does the other starting receiver, Breshad Perriman, who I thought played his best football when he had to be the number 1 when Mike Evans was hurt that last season he was in Tampa. And then he went to the Jets, and I had a feeling we wouldn't really hear much from him last year, but Perriman's also interesting. He'll give you some big playability. I just don't think you're getting the consistency out of this passing game. On defense, the Lions do have some talent up front. They have Jeff Okudah, rookie from last season, but there's a lot of work to do overall with this defense. More, I'd say, than the offense. Michael Brockers is a really solid addition. They want to be good at stopping the run, so this move made a lot of sense. They also drafted Levi Onwuzurike from Washington this year. I think that he will be the direct replacement for Brockers in due time. Romeo Okwara earned a contract extension last year. He's had a couple nice seasons in Detroit. He and Trey Flowers make for at least I'd say an average edge tandem, and Flowers is really versatile, so you could play him in a variety of ways. But this team really needs to step up their pass defense. They have Jeff Okudah, Quentin Dunbar. Okudah has the highest ceiling in this secondary right now, so you'd want to work on developing him. And thanks to the Matt Stafford-Jared Goff trade, you can enjoy 2 first-round picks for the first 2 drafts of your Lions franchise, which makes them more of an interesting team when the scouting update hits in September. And in this video, I included some teams that I think are better fits because we have this weird situation where we have this old scouting system that's about to be replaced. So some teams in a shorter term franchise might be better if you're starting like right now and you want to just play with a team for a couple of years. But the Lions are my favorite full rebuild team. They play in the NFC North, tough division, good division games every year. But let's move on to team number 2. We have the Las Vegas Raiders. This has been an interesting team to follow since the John Gruden, Mike Mayock era got underway a few years ago. They've made some first-round picks that people did not expect, and they've brought in a lot of different players to try and get this team on the right track, and there's still so much work to do. I think the best thing the Raiders have done in these few years with Mayock and Gruden is get Darren Waller on the team and have him become a top 3 tight end in the NFL. Darren Waller's put together 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons. There aren't many tight ends like him, and the Raiders know how to utilize him effectively. He's coming off a 107-catch season. So you have your X-Factor tight end. You also have Derek Carr at 30 years old, average or so quarterback. You'd probably think about replacing him in your franchise, and you can do that, but keep in mind, he's on a decent little contract here. Maybe you wait 2 years unless the right quarterback prospect comes along, because that's not bad in today's salary cap numbers. I do like this Raiders backfield with Josh Jacobs and the addition of Kenyon Drake. Jacobs is more of your between the tackles rusher, more power than speed. He's been over 1,000 yards the last 2 years. And then Drake gives you more of that big play upside in the backfield to go along with the big play upside you get from Henry Ruggs and his 98 speed, making him one of the fastest players in the game. This offense could become really good if you develop Ruggs, you still have Darren Waller, and you keep this backfield. I think there's a ton of upside there, although the offensive line is not great. They did take Alex Leatherwood in the first round this year, another pick that many people have questioned. And defensively, they've just tried to plug gaps with veterans, and a lot of these draft picks haven't worked out. I like Casey Hayward a lot, but I don't think that he'll change this defense tremendously. They just have so many needs. Yannick Ngakoue, I think he's a little bit better than a 78 overall, but maybe he's not quite the top tier edge rusher as some thought within the last couple of years. They did select Trayvon Merrick this year. We'll see if this selection works out. I think he was a solid value for them on day 2 of the draft, but there's just so much to do on defense. This does not look like a defense that this regime has been building for a few years. Maybe you can make it more exciting by developing Divine Diablo, rookie from Virginia Tech, 6'3", 226. Definitely make him a sub linebacker and see if you can help him revamp this defense. Overall, the Raiders to me are an interesting team because they play in a tough division, and there is a nice blend of developing the talent that's already there, primarily on offense, and then in the secondary, Damon Arnett and Trayvon Mullen each have star development. So there is a little potential there, plus you have the rookies Merrick and Diablo at safety. It's a good blend of developing what's there and then drafting a few areas, and I think a team like this fits right now. If you just want a team for a month until the scouting update is out, the Raiders are a pretty good pick. On to team number 3. I get asked all the time during the offseason of who's the best franchise team, and I don't think I've recommended any team more than the Carolina Panthers. I really like what they've been able to do in the last couple of years. They've drafted some difference makers. But what are you doing with Sam Darnold at quarterback? Could it really work out? He's a 71 overall, trying to turn his career around. Can you do it with him? Or do you play the XFL legend PJ Walker? Darnold has decent ratings, but with normal dev and him not being a rookie anymore, I think you're better off looking in a different direction. You do have Christian McCaffrey in this offense, and running backs tend to stay good for a long time in Madden, so that's always nice. And then at wide receiver, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. To me, DJ Moore is the better receiver, and he's very well-rounded. Although most of these skills are solid, not elite, he has superstar dev, so a couple 1,200-yard campaigns, and he would easily be in the low 90s. Taylor Moton's your best offensive lineman, and the rest of this line is going to need some work. And that's also going to make it just a better option overall to move on at quarterback. Tommy Tremble, here's an interesting pick they made. I love where Tremble's ratings are, and I think after 2 years, his ratings would look exactly like TJ Hawkinson's. He's a player to really build around. This defense in Carolina has some serious potential. And Brian Burns, I think, is going to join the elite pass rushers this season. He's put together 2 nice years in the NFL, and he's got the highest ceiling out of anybody, I'd say, on this entire Panther defense. 88 speed, 89 finesse move, only 2 years into his career. And then last year, they drafted a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate in Jeremy Chinn, who is super versatile. He can play in the slot, he can play sub linebacker, you can do whatever you want with Jeremy Chinn. If you watch my Texans franchise, just play him like Dre Tatum. There's Derek Brown, who was drafted last year as well with their first-round pick. And with where his ratings are at, you can get him to be both a good pass rusher and run stopper in due time. To me, Carolina is a good team if you're looking to do a lot of developing of an existing team and you don't care about drafting quite as much. You might need a quarterback and some offensive linemen, but other than that, there are a lot of good players on this team, and that's with me forgetting to really mention earlier J.C. Horn, this year's first-round pick, and they have Dante Jackson. Really, all you need here is the right quarterback, a couple more linemen, and time. We're going to stay in the NFC South with this next team as we have the Atlanta Falcons. Here's the team that I think people are excited about because they drafted Kyle Pitts, but that is literally the only reason to be excited about the Falcons in 2021. This isn't a good team. I fell into the trap last year of believing in this team, and they were really good the 1 week they took on the Vikings, and then you know what's happened since then. No more Julio Jones, but they bring in Kyle Pitts. And Pitts is one of the most fun players, I think, individually to work on developing in this game. There aren't many like him, but I think if you had to compare him to anybody, it would be Darren Waller. Calvin Ridley is a really good wide receiver. With those two, you have the start of something nice on offense. And Matt Ryan is still a pretty good quarterback, but I think that you're really getting into a situation where you should just mimic what the Lions did and probably trade him, get a first-round pick or two, and work on building this roster because they're just not ready to be a playoff team to me. There are a few star dev players along the O-line. Matt Hennessy at 67 overall. You just have to give him some time. They brought in Mike Davis, who is solid, but he's not going to give you a lot of big play upside. Just a well-rounded running back. And then defensively, this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time with the Falcons. Grady Jarrett. He's a really good interior pass rusher. Easily the best player on this defense. Deion Jones is also really good. Everybody knows how important coverage linebackers are, and the Falcons also have Foye Oluokun, who can also cover the middle of the field. Outside of those three, I think there's just so much to work on with this defense. They did select AJ Terrell, but they need a lot more in this secondary. The Falcons, to me, are basically a full-on rebuild. It's just they have Matt Ryan, so nobody thinks of them that way. But if you compare them to the teams in their division, the Panthers, I think, have way more overall talent on the team. The Buccaneers are just loaded. Who knows what the Saints are going to be this year, but I think that you're already looking at a situation that's a lot better if you just trade Matt Ryan, get the rebuild underway, and build a team around Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Deion Jones, and Grady Jarrett. Here's a team that I didn't really think about until recently, but the Indianapolis Colts, I think, are a great team for a shorter-term franchise. They do have a pretty good roster, and they've been to the postseason 2 out of the last 3 years. They brought in Carson Wentz this year, and hard to say with his injury when he'll start playing at quarterback, but maybe it's week 1. The situation you start out with this offense is actually fairly similar to the Lions. You have a good running back, Jonathan Taylor, 93 speed, 85 break tackle, finished the season really strong a year ago. You have a really good offensive line in Indy with the best guard in the game, Quentin Nelson, along with Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith. But then you have a new quarterback, a veteran, Carson Wentz at 28 years old, normal dev. I don't think you're fixing these accuracies. You really have to move on. Those accuracies just won't work, especially for over $25 million in cap hits in the upcoming seasons. I can't believe T.Y. Hilton is about to play his 10th NFL season. He has over 600 career catches, and he'll probably get to 10,000 yards this season. Hilton is not going to be the explosive playmaker that he once was. He'll still be a very good receiver, I think, but you're really hoping that Paris Campbell can take over T.Y.'s old role, that Michael Pittman develops into that big-bodied target they've been looking for. And then defensively, there's DeForest Buckner, the elite interior lineman. He has a very well-rounded skill set. He can win with power, win with finesse. You definitely want to make sure that you keep him long-term in this franchise. They just signed Darius Leonard to a really big contract extension as well. He was hurt in this simulation, so bottom of the depth chart, but he's a playmaker at linebacker. Outside of those two, there aren't a lot of standouts on defense, but there are intriguing young players like Kwity Paye, and then just solid starters like Kenny Moore and Bobby Okereke. I don't think this team has a lot of holes, but I also feel like there's something missing to get them to the Super Bowl. They need some more difference makers to me, and that's where I think a 2 to 3 year rebuild, trying to find a couple key draft picks and the right quarterback, make the Colts a good fit for a franchise right now before the scouting update hits. I also think if you take this team, there's a unique sense of urgency to try and win while you have this core intact, and that might involve finding a new quarterback or developing Jacob Eason, depending on what you want to do. That will take us into our next team, a team that has won a Super Bowl recently, but is still a great team for franchise in Madden 22. We have the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts looks to be the starting quarterback this year, and I'm cheering for him to have a big year. You can certainly develop Jalen Hurts into a franchise quarterback. It's just not going to be as easy as taking over the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence or the Bears with Justin Fields. He has normal development. He's a 71 overall, and he's not a rookie anymore. The Eagles do have some players that should make Jalen Hurts' job easier. Hurts has only 84 throw power though, so you definitely want him running a lot in this offense, and his accuracies aren't great, so running needs to be a huge part of what you're doing on offense. And run the ball with Miles Sanders, please, because Doug Peterson wouldn't do it enough, and it really frustrated me. Give Miles Sanders the ball. Philly has taken receivers in back-to-back first rounds, having selected Devontae Smith this year, extremely well-rounded, 91 speed. You can turn him into a great slot receiver, a great deep threat. Very, very nice rookie receiver to work with. And then there's an offensive line that has 3 superstar players that are all aging. So they're there to help you early on, but not so much in a couple of years. And I think this team has a really interesting build, very different than many others, because there's still a lot of players from that Super Bowl winning team, back when the Eagles had maybe the most complete roster in the NFL. But now those players are a few years older, some are no longer there, and they're in this situation where they don't want a full-on rebuild, but they also may not have their right quarterback going forward. So there's a major sense of urgency if you do an Eagles franchise. If you don't have success with Jalen Hurts, you have to find the right guy very early. But you can also just say, okay, They won a Super Bowl at this core, it's time to move on. And you can trade away Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz, and more of these veterans and completely start over in Philadelphia. If you go that route, they're a better fit when the scouting update is out. But really, any team in the NFC East is great for franchise, and I couldn't make this video without at least one in here. And to me, Philadelphia has the most interesting roster to take into the future. This is certainly a team for those of you that like to trade players away, get draft picks, and then make the team your own. That is going to take us into the final team I wanted to talk about today. We have the New York Jets. Seems they've been rebuilding for a while, and there is a new era. Zach Wilson was just selected to be their quarterback, and I think this era is already in a better spot than at any point in the Adam Gase, Sam Darnold era. There's already a better offensive line in place for Zach Wilson, more playmakers on offense, but this team is lacking elite talent. They have a couple superstar players, and Mekhi Becton has a ton of upside, but 86 overall Quinnen Williams is their best player in Madden. They selected Zach Wilson this year, and he has really good ratings to get started with this team and a lot of playmakers to get the ball to. 87 short accuracy, 82 deep, and 94 throw power. Elijah Moore was drafted this year. He's another hidden development rookie, 92 speed. I think he ultimately ends up taking over for Jamison Crowder. And then first round pick, Elijah Vera Tucker, working on building up that left side of the line. There is more work to do, but I think that the line has gotten a lot better for New York. They also brought in Corey Davis, who had a great season with Tennessee, and we'll see if he can be a #1 here. But even if he can't, there are so many passing options. There's also Keelan Cole and Denzel Mims, Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter in the backfield. Carter's a rookie you could work on developing. With this defense, they do have some good front seven players, and then a bit of work to do, I think, in the secondary. Quinnen Williams, your #1 rated player. Strong, good run stopper, decent pass rusher as well. Marcus May is your best player in the secondary. Speed, cover ability, can also come down and tackle and hit. I like Marcus May a lot, but if you're not strong at corner, it's hard to be a good defense. And they're not even average at corner. This is one of the lowest rated cornerback groups in the NFL. Pass rush makes that a little bit easier, and they brought in Carl Lawson this year. I thought that was a pretty good move on their part. So to me, the Jets are a great team if you're just wanting a team with a lot of players to develop, like with the Panthers. You still have to add on to the secondary, but I really don't think that in Madden franchise they are that far away if you're having success with Zach Wilson and all these different options to get the ball to. I think you can, in a couple of drafts, add a couple defensive players and have this team in shape to compete for a playoff spot. Now, that division has gotten tougher, but I think that's a nice challenge. And the Patriots, Dolphins, and Bills, I think, are all very different challenges. So those are my top 7 teams here for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope if you've been trying to find your franchise team that this helped you out. If you're still not sure, how about an honorable mention? My favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. There has to be a major sense of urgency. There's an aging core on this team, but there are playmakers on both sides of the football. You just want to try to get a Super Bowl within the first few years. Otherwise, you're basically starting over. That is going to do it for today's video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back with more Madden 22 content soon. Have a great day.